the friend from beyond. Zix had traveled 47.3 light years to get here, and frankly, Earth was not what the galactic travel guides had promised. The third planet from Sol was supposed to be teeming with fascinating life forms, eager for intergalactic friendship, according to the outdated Cosmic Lonely Hearts Club brochure that had been floating around the Andromeda station for decades. Instead, Zix found themselves crash landing in what appeared to be the most desolate stretch of desert imaginable, surrounded by warning signs in a primitive pictographic language and more barbed wire than seemed reasonable for any civilization. The landing hadn't gone according to plan. Zix's ship, a modest personal transport vessel, roughly the size of Earth's recreational vehicles, had suffered a catastrophic navigation failure somewhere around Mars. What was supposed to be a gentle touchdown near one of Earth's major population centers, preferably somewhere with good reviews for hospitality, had instead become an emergency crash in the middle of nowhere, Nevada. As Zix emerged from the smoking wreckage, their translucent blue form shimmering in the desert heat, they surveyed the landscape with growing disappointment. 3 eyes, arranged in a triangular pattern on their elongated head, blinked in sequence as they processed the barren terrain. This was definitely not the bustling metropolis full of potential friends that the brochure had depicted. "Well," Zix muttered in their native tongue, a sound like wind chimes being gently stirred by a summer breeze, "at least I'm still alive." The optimism was short-lived. Within minutes of beginning their trek across the desert, Zix heard the distinctive whine of approaching aircraft. Military aircraft, judging by the aggressive sound pattern. This was unfortunate, as Zix had specifically chosen Earth because their research indicated it was a peaceful planet, full of beings who would welcome visitors with open arms. The research had apparently been quite wrong. The helicopters descended like mechanical vultures, kicking up enormous clouds of sand and dust. Zix raised their forearms in what they hoped was a universal gesture of peaceful intent, but the response was decidedly hostile. Within moments, they were surrounded by humans in military fatigues, all pointing what were obviously weapons in their direction. "I come in friendship," Zix called out, their voice now automatically translated into English by their universal communication implant. "I seek companionship and cultural exchange." The lead human, distinguished by additional markings on his uniform, stepped forward. "You're under arrest," he said, though he seemed just as confused as he was authoritative. "You have the right to remain silent." "But I don't want to remain silent," Zix protested, as they were led toward a series of vehicles. "I've come such a long way to make friends. Surely we can discuss this over some form of beverage. I brought gifts." The military personnel exchanged glances. This was clearly not covered in their training manual, and so began Zix's unexpected stay at what they would later learn was Area 51, the most classified military installation in the United States. The irony was not lost on them that they had crashed at the one place on Earth specifically designed to handle alien encounters, though apparently the handling protocol was more imprisonment and less friendship bracelet exchange. Dr. Sarah Chen was the first human Zix met who didn't immediately try to restrain them or point weapons in their direction. She entered the sterile holding facility, which Zix had cheerfully decorated with origami-like sculptures made from food wrappers, carrying a tablet and wearing an expression of scientific curiosity mixed with barely contained excitement. "Hello," she said simply, setting her tablet down on the metal table. "My name is Dr. Chen. What's yours?" Zix's 3 eyes lit up with joy. Finally, a proper introduction. "Zix of the Kepler 442 system," they replied, executing what they had learned was called a bow. "I am so pleased to meet you, Doctor. Chen, are we friends now? I've been hoping to make a friend since I arrived." Dr. Chen blinked, clearly taken aback by the directness of the question. Well, I'm here to study you, to learn about you. Excellent. Zix clapped all four hands together. Learning about each other is the foundation of friendship. I would love to learn about you, too. What are your interests? Do you enjoy recreational activities? Do humans engage in gift exchange as a bonding ritual? Over the following weeks, Dr. Chen found herself spending increasing amounts of time in the facility, ostensibly conducting research, but actually engaged in what could only be described as the galaxy's most unusual friendship. Zix was endlessly curious about human culture, asking detailed questions about everything from food preparation to the emotional significance of music. In return, they shared stories about their home planet, where crystalline cities grew like flowers, and the primary form of art was collaborative dreaming. "Why did you come to Earth?" Dr. Chen asked one afternoon, sharing her lunch with Zix, who found human food surprisingly palatable, despite their different physiology. Zix's translucent skin shifted to a deeper blue, which Dr. Chen had learned indicated melancholy. "My species, we're very social, but we're also very logical. Everything on my world is perfectly ordered, perfectly efficient. There's no room for the kind of randomness that makes friendships interesting. I read about Earth in our databases, how humans form bonds based on shared experiences, common interests, even random encounters. It sounded wonderful. And you came all this way just to make a friend?" "Just," Zix's eyes widened. "Dr. Chen, friendship is the most complex and beautiful phenomenon in the known universe. It transcends biology, culture, even species. The idea that two beings can choose to care about each other's well-being without any logical requirement to do so. It's miraculous." Dr. Chen found herself smiling. "You know, when you put it like that, the friendship that developed between them was indeed miraculous, though it created significant complications for the military personnel who were supposedly keeping Zix contained. The alien had no interest in escaping. Where would they go? But they were increasingly unhappy about the restrictions on their social interactions. "I don't understand the purpose of walls," Zix complained to Dr. Chen one day. "If we're friends, shouldn't I be able to visit you in your natural habitat? See how you live. Meet your other friends." "It's complicated," Dr. Chen said, though she was beginning to question the ethics of the situation herself. "The government is concerned about what might happen if people knew about you. What might happen? Mass friendship?" Dr. Chen laughed despite herself. "Some people might be afraid of you." Zix looked genuinely puzzled. "Afraid? But why? I'm quite friendly. I enjoy sharing snacks and learning about different perspectives on existence. What's frightening about that?" It was a good question, and one that Dr. Chen found herself thinking about more and more. She began to advocate for Zix within the facility, arguing that the alien posed no threat and that their continued detention was both unnecessary and cruel. The military brass were skeptical, but even they had to admit that their otherworldly prisoner was remarkably well-behaved and seemed genuinely interested only in companionship. General Morrison, the facility commander, was particularly resistant to any changes in protocol. "It's an alien, Doctor. Chen. We don't know what it's capable of." "They," Dr. Chen corrected. "Zix uses they-them pronouns. And what they're capable of is being an incredibly good friend. They remember everything I tell them. They're interested in my work. They make me laugh. And they've taught me more about patience and curiosity than any human I've ever met." "That's exactly what makes them dangerous," the general replied, though his argument was beginning to sound hollow even to his own ears. The breakthrough came when Zix fell ill. Their translucent skin grew dull, and they became listless, barely responding to Dr. Chen's visits. The facility's medical team was at a loss. They had no idea how to treat an alien physiology they barely understood. What's wrong? Dr. Chen asked desperately. What do you need? Zix's voice was weak, their usual chime-like quality reduced to a whisper. I think I'm dying of loneliness. Not just loneliness for my own kind, but for the friendship I came so far to find. I thought I had found it with you, but friendship cannot exist in a cage. Dr. Chen felt something break inside her chest. She stormed out of the containment area and marched directly to General Morrison's office. Either you let Zix go or I quit, she announced without preamble. They're not a prisoner of war or a security threat. They're my friend, and they're dying because we're treating them like a specimen instead of a person. The general looked up from his paperwork, surprised by her vehemence. Dr. Chen, you're being emotional. Yes, I am, she interrupted. That's what friends do. They care about each other emotionally. They protect each other. And if you can't understand that, then you don't deserve to study them. In the end, it wasn't Dr. Chen's ultimatum that changed everything, though it certainly helped. It was Zix themselves who used their final reserves of energy to demonstrate their species' most remarkable ability, the sharing of consciousness. Through direct mental contact, Zix shared their memories and emotions with every person in the facility, letting them experience the pure joy of discovering friendship, the wonder of connecting with another being, and the deep sadness of being kept apart from the very thing they had traveled across the galaxy to find. The experience was transformative. Hardened military personnel found themselves weeping as they felt Zix's genuine affection for Dr. Chen and their simple desire to belong somewhere. The mental connection lasted only minutes, but its impact was permanent. General Morrison was the first to enter the containment area after the connection ended. He found Zix weak but smiling, surrounded by facility personnel who were looking at their former prisoner with new eyes. What do you need? The general asked simply. A friend, Zix replied. And maybe a chance to make more friends. 6 months later, Zix had become something of a local celebrity in the nearest town, Rachel, Nevada. The government had quietly declassified their existence, presenting their arrival as a diplomatic first contact rather than a crash landing. Zix had taken up residence in a specially modified house with extra tall ceilings and a crystal garden, and had become the town's unofficial ambassador of interspecies friendship. They hosted weekly potluck dinners, volunteered at the local library reading stories to children in their musical voice, and had started a successful online blog about friendship that had attracted readers from around the world. Dr. Chen had taken a transfer to work at the newly established Xenological Studies Institute in Rachel, and the two remained close friends. Do you ever regret coming to Earth? Dr. Chen asked one evening as they sat on Zix's porch, watching the sunset paint the desert sky in brilliant colors. Zix's skin shimmered with contentment, a warm golden hue that Dr. Chen had learned indicated happiness. Never, they said, reaching out to squeeze her hand with one of their 4 appendages. I came looking for a friend, and I found so much more. I found a community, a home, a purpose. They paused, watching as the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Besides, the travel brochure was right about one thing. Earth really is full of beings eager for friendship. They just needed someone to show them it was safe to be friends with someone different. As if to prove the point, a group of local children appeared around the corner, running toward the house with excited shouts of, "Zix! Zix! Will you tell us the story about the Crystal Cities again?" Zix's eyes sparkled with joy as they stood to greet their young friends. Of course. But first, who wants to help me make some of those friendship bracelets I learned about? Dr. Chen smiled as she watched Zix disappear into the house, surrounded by chattering children. The alien had traveled 47.3 light years to find a friend, and in the process, had taught an entire community, and eventually the world, about the true meaning of friendship. The willingness to open your heart to someone different from yourself and discover that the differences only make the connection more beautiful. In the end, Area 51 had indeed been the perfect place for Zix to land. Not because it was designed to contain aliens, but because it was where they learned that friendship, like the best things in the universe, cannot be contained at all.